Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios, and today I have a brand new release. Announced today, Audient have the new iD4 Mark II, and I also have an iD14. And I'm going to check out these new Mark II versions, see what's different, and if you didn't see the Mark I versions, I'll tell you all about what these do overall. So let's roll the intro and then we'll check them out. So quite a while ago now, I did a video on the Audient iD4, the original iD4, which was a very cool little interface, single microphone input, and it could also do a DI, very stripped down, very basic. You could power it off USB, and compared to any other USB only interfaces that I had heard at that time, it was really, really good. Of course, better interfaces are coming along because of the inexorable march of time. As time goes on, interfaces just get better as chipsets improve, as designs improve, and there's some competition now for it. So, Audient have come out with their new iD4 Mark II. This one is very similar from the looks of it to the old one. Let's get it out of the box, shall we? We've also got the iD14 to look at. I'll be doing that in a few minutes. So the iD4 Mark II, let's get this out of the box. Alright, so they've changed the colours for a start, which is cosmetic, doesn't actually change the sound, but is cool nonetheless. It's now got a kind of a gunmetal grey finish with black panelling. Does make the writing pop a little more, which is always good if you don't want to be staring at it. I know I have to adjust my glasses sometimes to make sure I can see things properly. And it's the same layout as before, so it's got a rotary volume knob, which also goes clicky clicky, which is to do with its control of separate apps. It's got a single microphone or line input on the back, which has a switchable phantom power. It's got a separate channel 2, which is the guitar DI in the front. It's got a knob on here to blend how much you want to hear the raw inputs compared to the output from the computer. And it's got a button for mute and the ID button, which can do a couple of very clever things. A couple of monitor outs, and what's new about this is it's no longer using the old big square USB connection. It now uses USB-C, which is a lot more slick and is becoming more and more common. So it's like with USB cables that are interchangeable, this is always a good thing because if you lose the cable, break the cable, there's no need to replace the entire unit. You just find a cable that matches. In fact, I've got one on the sofa over here. This isn't the original cable, this is USB-A, the square one to USB-C, and it fits either way. It also fits upside down and also just goes in, so it's much less likely to break than any of the other small connectors. And there you go, that'll connect to anything. A lot of modern computers like MacBooks only have USB-C on them anyway, so you need a USB-C to USB-C cable. Let's see if one comes in the box. And it does. So we've got USB-C to USB-C cable in here, so that will plug straight into something like a modern MacBook. Or quite a lot of modern Windows laptops also have that. It's just a connector type. It's no better or worse than the older USB-C connectors. It doesn't make it sound better, it doesn't do anything like that. Having said that, under the hood, Audient have changed the design of this. They've said that now it draws USB 3 power. What does that mean? So that sounds a little bit weird. What it means is that USB 2, when it was made, had two things to it. It had how fast the data could go, which was up to 480 megabits per second, but it also had how much power a standard USB 2 port could give, and that was 500 milliamps, which sounds like a lot to some people. When it comes to feeding a hungry interface with really nice components, that's not very much. Now USB 3, they define that as being able to send a lot more data, but also it's allowed to use more power. It's allowed to use 900 milliamps straight out of the USB port, which is great. That means there's nearly double the power budget. And I can't think of many computers now that don't have USB 3 on them at all. It's very, very rare to find that. So I think Audient have just gone, right, okay, let's just say that every computer that we use this with, even 10 years old, almost 15 years old now, lots of older computers have USB 3. Let's use that, because then the more power means we're not worried about whether the actual components can keep up, which is really good because it means that they can get more quality, better conversion, lower noise preamps into the design, because they know that those things that use more power have, you know, the power to draw on, which is great. The other thing is the iD4 has got two headphone outputs on the front, which is great. They are the same, they're shared headphone outputs, so you'll hear the same thing on both. But there's a big one and a small one, which means if you've forgotten the adapter for your headphones, it doesn't matter, you'll always have something to plug into, which I think is a really nice little touch. Now, a little later on in this video, I am going to do audio demonstrations with these two interfaces, but now I'm going to move on to talking about the iD14. So this slightly bigger box is the iD14 Mark II. Now this has a slightly more significant upgrade. So this one, I think Audient are going to sell a ton of these. Following on the success of the Evo series, it looks like they've looked at the Evo series and gone, you know what? Some of those features people have really liked, let's move them into the new series. So they've definitely learnt from the dual headphone output thing, so the iD14 Mark II now has the same double headphone output thing as the iD4. Again, useful feature. They've also got the DI for channel 1, but then still the mic and line for 1 and 2. On the back, there are now 4 line level outputs on TRS rather than the old 2, which means that you've got a separate third and fourth out. So either you could have a second set of monitors permanently attached there, or you could do what I do when I've got multiple outputs and have a reamp output for a guitar amp permanently set up with output 3, let's say, which is fantastic. It's still got the optical input, so you can still have another 8 inputs via ADAT, which makes it 10 inputs and 4 outputs and the headphones. So, I mean, technically, maybe they should call this the iD16, I don't know. But going with branding works, so iD14 is. This doesn't have the 12-volt barrel jack input that the old iD14 had. It seems that because I was talking about with the USB 3 power being able to feed more, they don't need the external wall wart adapter anymore. So this can now be on a single cable straight to your computer, no external power required. That's another thing you don't have to do, which means that this is going to be much easier to use as a mobile device. It's got 2 independently switchable 48-volt phantom powers for each microphone input, but now that they know they can draw that much power from USB, that's now not a concern. That won't degrade the quality of the audio, because on some circuits that I've seen from some of the interface manufacturers that make the kind of the entry-level interfaces, shall we say, either the phantom power doesn't deliver a full 48 volts, which means that certain microphones won't perform very well, or if they do give a full 48 volts, that can cause current draw issues which make the interface suffer. I've actually seen some of the cheaper interfaces where you turn phantom power on and it can make the interface glitch out, drop out, cause issues. And hopefully that's not going to be the case here, because Audient have completely redesigned this for 2021. Now, this also has the same scrolling clicky wheel as the iD4, and it's got the speaker button, the ID button, and also a headphone button. I wonder if that's to switch between headphones and regular monitor outputs. But this is looking like a very capable little unit. So now I'm going to take these home, and I'm going to record something with these in my kitchen, which might seem a little weird, but that means that I can be out the studio situation using this more like how someone would use one of these at home. I'm going to use this new Aston Element microphone in front of an acoustic guitar and do a vocal and see how that stacks up, because that's the kind of thing that, like I said, I think that's more like what the home user would use. The statistics for these, apparently these are well over 120 decibels of ADC and DAC, so the conversion, what that means is you can really crank the gain on these and you're not going to hear any converter hiss. One thing I'm looking for as well is to see, I'm going to use the DI inputs on these and do a bit of virtual guitar amp work, and I'm going to have the gain on the virtual amp really high, and I'm going to turn my guitar volume down, and with poor quality DIs, especially instrument inputs on lower budget interfaces, that tends to create lots of noise, this whole snowstorm of noise, and I'm not going to use a noise gate on that. I'm just going to try, like I said, just straight into the DI without a DI box, which is usually what I don't recommend, but for the purposes of this video I'm doing this as a test, and so we're going to see how well this performs in that environment. Okay, this is the SM7B test, the dreaded SM7B test on the iD4 Mark II. The gain is absolutely all the way up, and you can probably hear the background more than you can hear any preamp noise. This is really impressive. I mean, I'm talking under my breath at the moment, because if I talk really loud, that will easily clip this, which means that it seems that with the new iD4 Mark II, you don't need something like, the cloud lifters or something like that. This is, like I said, the gain knob will not go any higher. This is absolutely cranked, and yet you can hear my clock ticking on the wall behind the microphone about 10 feet away. No preamp noise. If that's not a testament to the fact that these have got seriously upgraded specs, I don't know what is, because that's really impressive for an entry-level single input unit. If you're looking at getting an SM7B for podcasting or something like that, the old, there's loads of noise on it when you turn the gain up, doesn't seem to apply anymore. There you go. Safe to say, I'm very impressed with the performance of this. I am going to have the iD14 permanently installed, I think, in my little office setup at home. Obviously, I'm not going to use it in here because I have this, but I do use my Audient preamps that are behind me all the time. I'm a big fan of Audient stuff, and these are no exception. The iD4 I'm going to keep to one side because there will be little field projects where I need something. In fact, one thing to try now quickly is one of these where it says iOS compatible. Somewhere I have a lightning to USB-C cable. Let me find that. Alright, moment of truth. Let's plug the lightning end of this cable into my iPhone 11, I think it is. I can't keep track these days. iPhone XS, which should be new enough because it says on the box for the iD4 that it is compatible with iOS. Let's just plug this straight in and see if anything happens. Alright, well, nothing's happening so far. That tells me that the iD4 and the iD14 can't draw enough power straight from this, which is to be expected. I think if you've got the absolute newest iPad Pro that's got the USB-C output on it, that should be able to drive enough power to these. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to test that again at home with my powered USB hub, because then the powered USB hub can communicate directly with my iPad at home and then power the iD4, because that's something that I've done in previous videos. You can run these with a separate battery bank, like a power brick and a powered USB hub, because then that battery bank is powering this device, which means you can still record on the road. You can still record when you're nowhere near an AC power outlet, or when you're nowhere near a laptop that can power this. If you want to do iOS work, and I know a lot of people do, then that's an option as well. Now, I happen to know as well that these iD devices, they do have drivers that you can install on macOS and Windows, which just get the best performance out of them in terms of latency and showing all the inputs and outputs to your software. But these are also class compliant, and what that means is I can plug these into something like an iPad or something Linux based where there isn't any driver for it, and they will function. They'll come up as iD4, iD14. So there you have it, the iD4 and the iD14. I hope you found this video useful. These should be available very shortly, if not already. The links will be in the description here, along with the release date if they're not already released, because this is the announcement day today. So yeah, hopefully you can get your hands on one of these and have a lot of fun, because these are the real deal. And comparing these to something like the Evo, I happen to have the Evo 8 down here and still in its box, but I've been using this at home, and I'll be swapping this out for the iD4 because the Evo 8 is great. The iD14 is a little more on what I would call the professional side. The price does reflect that, it's a little higher, but the conversion quality is second to none. The optical input is a big one for me because it means I can have an extra 8 inputs. This has got 4 inputs on the Evo, which is great, and 4 outputs. But yeah, the optical kills it for me every time. And even just that little edge for me, because I am an audio nerd, the Evo 8 sounds great. The iD series, especially these Mark IIs, sound just a cut above. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where the Evo kind of leapfrogged the iD4 and 14 a little bit, and then the Mark II is leapfrogging that. So years from now, we might see the Evo Mark II leapfrog that, then the iD Mark III. I'm just completely guessing now, but the inexorable march of technology, that's a thing. And I can't wait to see what Audient have got up their sleeves next. Thanks for watching, everybody. Click the subscribe button if you found this useful. Stick around for more videos from me from things like this Aston Element microphone, and there are so many more videos coming. It's hard to even describe what we've got in store for you, but there's lots. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hot Pole Studios. See you there.